All right. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Juban Ilyas.
Hello and welcome, everyone. So I'll start off with my thank you for shopping Kmart statement. I realized you had other choices, but thanks for being here. So what are we going to talk about in the next 44 to 45 minutes? What I really want to do is show you evil. How many of you categorize yourselves as visual learners? You see something, okay, great. So I'm one of those, and I hear and read a lot, and now we hear a lot of podcasts. But I truly learn when I actually see evil in action. So this, the whole attempt in the next 40-some minutes is to make sure that a lot of the stuff that you hear about is actually visualized on the screen, and you get to see the flow of the attack. So while you're doing that, what I would love for you to think about is your organization able to defend against those threats? So there's a section in this presentation that walks you through the whole attack lifecycle. Some people call it a kill chain. And as you go through these latest tactics, techniques, and procedures, just think to yourself, like, hey, is my organization capable of thwarting those attacks, especially for those of you in security? Okay, so let's begin. We've got some demos as well, so that's going to be a very fun part. And then one other thing that I want to do towards the end of the talk is just kind of describe, like, let's say if you do get attacked by a ransomware threat actor, how do you manage a war room? Because we get a lot of what we call pre-ransomware attacks, where the ransomware hasn't detonated yet, the encryption hasn't happened. So there is a chance to not let attackers complete the mission. So how do you set up those war rooms? How do you equip those war rooms? What kind of atmosphere you need in that war room? That all we're going to talk about as well. Right, so let's talk about the context. What information do we have that makes this presentation? So Mandiant, by the numbers, I've been doing it for 20 years. Any given year, we do 1,000+ investigations. We have about 300 incident response folks globally. So just in 2024, it's a huge stat. So 450,000 incident response hours. So a lot of what you're going to hear today is based on real-life attacks with real-life ramifications, real-life consequences. Let's talk about me for a little. I've been in the industry for about 18 years. Had a good fortune of speaking at DEF CON, RSA, Black Hat, ThoughtCon. I also teach digital forensics at Northwestern University in Chicago. A few years ago, I was nominated as Crane's 40 Under 40. That was 2017. And actually, the bad guys hate me too. So, so let's look at a screenshot. Basically, I have a $100,000 bounty on me. This is a post on the dark web, along with some of other Mandiant colleagues. But they basically say that, we're a criminal organization involved in unacceptable and provocative practices. So basically, the attackers, they're the indirect affected party. The background may be that we stopped them from getting a 22 million some ransom payment. So of course they're going to be mad. But any idea of how many people on this planet go after the subjects of this advertisement for $100,000? Who'll be the first one to go at us? any script kiddie, any hacker. But to my surprise, when my wife saw it, she was like, I'll take it. I'll take $100,000. And that's a lot of money. I already know your secrets. So I'll give you the whole profile and I'll ask for more. So basically, what happened right after this was life turned around, lots of spam. Do you know what SIM swapping is? So I would get these messages that, oh, you've just landed in Argentina. Here's our super, roaming rate. So use all the data that you want. And I'm like, I'm sitting here in Chicago. What's up with this? So basically, this is our world. This is a world that we live in. We combat these threat actors as they're about to encrypt networks. And again, it's risky, but I will tell you, it is one of the most rewarding jobs, because last year, we got to do a lot of healthcare ransomware cases where some of our work actually ended up saving lives. So it is a very, very noble profession, and that is something that we take a lot of pride in. So all these risks, they mean nothing. I think the mission is paramount. Okay, so let's come to the topic. How many years have you been hearing about ransomware? Like, how long have you been hearing about ransomware? 2 to 4 years, 5 years, 6, 7, 15? Okay. So I would say maybe anywhere from 5 to 15 for most of you. So why is it still happening? And why is it still happening to even the more mature organizations, the people that you think would have the budgets to combat? So basically, that's the premise for today. What I wanted to start off with is just to give you the lay of the land. There is a method to this madness. They have a whole life cycle that they have to get through to actually complete the mission. So how do they start? They typically start with gaining access to the network using exploits, social engineering, third parties. Then, the middle phases, they conduct several attacks within the network to gain admin credentials. They have to escalate privileges, so they install backdoors to maintain the presence. They conduct a lot of internal reconnaissance to understand how they're going to further their attack. Okay, and then on top you see lateral movement and maintaining presence. So lateral movement, there's a lot of things built into Windows or operating system. So for Windows, they use remote desktop. For Linux, they just use SSH. One of the things that we're seeing these threat actors do a lot is compromise the vCenter, your virtual infrastructure, so ESXi servers. And one of the brilliant things about encrypting, on the ESXi is that you don't even have to mess with the operating system's security tooling. Does that make sense? Because your ESXi server is the one that hosts a lot of your guest machines. So if you have to log in to some systems and deploy the ransomware, the encryptor program, you could be stopped with you could really get stopped by the security tooling. But when they use the vCenter and ESXi, they're just mapping to the drive, the NAS drive that has the guest OS, and they're just encrypting all of it. So you can't even boot up on that. All right, let's talk about maintaining presence. One of the ways that attackers have evolved is that they used to use a lot of malware. But you probably heard this theme all day long and before. They're using a lot of living of the land tools. What that means is that they don't want to trigger any alarms. They just want to go slow and steady, but get the job done. So remote management tools, you guys heard about TeamViewer, LogMeIn, AnyDesk, RustDesk. So all of these tools, if you install it on your systems, it's not going to generate an alarm from a security tool, right? because those are the tools that your IT might be using, your third parties might be using. So that's what they're taking advantage of. They're actually creating their own tunneling, right? If you install OpenSSH on a box, if you install, when you download PuTTY, there are some additional tools like plink. So they can just do their own tunneling software. They don't even have to use like a malicious or suspicious looking tunneler. So that's what we see them do these days. And last but not the least on this slide, have you guys heard of this concept called bring your own vulnerable driver? So attackers are basically killing the security tooling just in case their software is going to generate alarms. Because you see, it's actually hours, sometimes days of work to get to that phase where they're ready to deploy the ransomware. They don't want to take a chance because then they have to redo all that, right, to come back again. So once they have domain admin level privileges, they basically install security tool killers. So I think the one that we've recently seen is AVKill. The one we saw a few months ago was called Terminator. So if you Google those and look at GitHub or their sites, you will see that it basically ends your visibility. So if you have an EDR, you might have this false sense of security that, hey, my EDR is going to give me an alert if something bad happens. But let me ask you this question. Again, you don't have to answer loud, but just think about it. If you have, say, 5,000 node network, and your EDR on, say, 5 systems at different points in time, not like all at once, if it stops reporting to the console, do you have a way of figuring out, or would you even consider that malicious? Would you call it an incident? Probably not, right? Or that's 5 may not be too many. For attackers, 1 is too many, because that one system that is without any protection, they can make that their pivot system, their staging server, and then they can go to town from that system. All right, so we already went through that. So just keep the score to yourself that, hey, as we go through this several phases of the kill chain or the attack lifecycle, see what your score is towards the end. Are you able to do any damage to the attack kill chain, like from the 7 or 8 phases that we're going to cover, or not? Okay, let's talk about infiltration. What are some of the techniques that we're seeing out in the wild? Fake updates. Anybody heard of fake updates, or anybody had to deal with it recently? So what attackers do is that they compromise sites that we commonly visit, and it's not like your big news outlet sites, right? Because everybody would be telling those big websites that, hey, your site is compromised. It's like everyday local sites. I'll give you 2 examples that we saw recently. One was like a county fair website. So local people, when they have a county fair, they go to this website to get information. So the attackers like to compromise a lot of those kind of sites. The recent one that I saw was, I think somebody searched for an Indian restaurant. They went there to the site, and sure enough, it had a pop-up like this. And I don't know how much you can see, but this is like a JS file, which is like a script file. So normally, you don't download a JS file. But when you do download, and it goes to your downloads folder, when you double click it, it gets run by W script or like C script. And basically, that executes this JavaScript code, and then the infiltration happens. So for attackers, getting in via fake updates is not that hard if they get, and this is more of an opportunistic attack. This is not one of those where They wake up and say, hey, I'm going to specifically come target you today. This is more of the tactic of, in the ransomware ecosystem, there are access brokers, then there's like a middle party, and then there are some developers of the ransomware. So this is a tactic that's mostly used by access brokers. So they get into the network, and then they sell access to some of the criminals that they know. Sometimes they could advertise it on dark web that, hey, this airline that is based in Texas, I have access to that thing. So if you want to get access, here's what you have to pay. All right, SEO poisoning. So we see this too, where somebody is on a search engine, they're putting in, like, let's say they're a new employee and they're supposed to download a tool for, say, remote access. So they type in a tool name and say, I want to download this. But because of the way that search engine rankings are, right, could be a paid thing, it could be something poisoned, they go to the website and download like a fake version of that tool. So here's the part that you need to understand about that, because if it's just totally fake, then there will be a lot of alarms, right? That, like, attackers back in the days, they used to hack people and then display a message, haha, I just hacked you. These days, not so much of that. So basically, even the fake software for that remote access, they would actually run their malware first, and then right after the malware is executed, they would actually install that software so that for the end user, they're still getting what they want. They wanted to install this remote tool to access their company's network. They go download it. Malware runs. Yes, there's a backdoor that's running, but right after that, the real software also gets executed. So the end user doesn't get suspicious, and they go with their business. Social engineering. You probably heard a lot about Scattered Spider as a threat actor in the recent past. So it's one of their tactics. They create these sites that look like the single sign-on sites. So they would actually create some domains, some fake domains, and they would make it so that it looks like single sign-on domains by putting words like Okta, SSO, login. So it, the part that's actually blinked out here, it is actually the name of the company. So people like us, we could probably see through it, right? Like if the subdomain is the company, right? And the parent domain is something SSO, we'd be like, oh, that is not the main domain. My company's name is in the subdomain. So that's a no-no, I won't click on it. But an average user, if they're seeing their company name and Okta or SSO, like they are vaguely familiar with it, they tend to click on it. So that's the SMS-based compromise. They also call in to help us. They're actually really brilliant at it. And back in the days, we would actually spot the threat actors by patterns that the accent doesn't match. They say they live in Chicago, but the accent was very thick Russian accent, right? But these days, their accents match the location, or they match the location of the user that they're trying to infiltrate into. Okay, info stealer malware. So the concept here is there's no such thing as free lunch, right? So anytime people download pirated software, game mods, any sort of free services, there is a piece of code that comes with it. And basically all it's doing, and I say all it's doing, it is really important, it is taking your credentials in the background. And sometimes, and here's my gripe with a lot of antivirus software, sometimes they get rated as medium severity malware or low severity malware. A question to you, if you're going to create a malware, will you create a low severity malware or a high severity malware? High severity, right? So if somebody's going to try to do something malicious, might as well go all in, right? So point is, so I had a conversation with a lot of friends in the industry. They say, oh, it's medium severity because the conclusive impact is not known. That's just one piece of it, but it is a very, very important piece of it, your identity, your credential. Sometimes it could be a session token as well. So it actually, when you have the session token, you can bypass two-factor authentication via something that InfoStealer gives you. So really, really critical. Okay, so the usual suspects. Now, exploits, we've seen a huge rise. It used to be like email spear phishing, but nowadays we see a lot of exploits. The big reason, like some of these servers or some of these network appliances like firewalls and like appliances, EDR appliances, so think about a firewall. First of all, the people don't even know like who owns the device. Is it like us, or is it the vendor, or is it a shared responsibility? Second of all, they don't let you install EDR because they might say, hey, you're installing too much, it will void your warranty. And third, because it's a custom operating system, you might not even be able to install an EDR on it. So for attackers, these systems are gold mine for lateral movement because they get in there and that gets their foot in the door, and then from there they move to the rest of the network. We talked about stolen credentials, phishing already, so I'll just keep moving. And this is it's a great progression. If you look at the exploits, that is what is quite high in from 2022 onwards. All right, supply chain and third-party compromises. How do you defend against that? There's so much trust that we put in the code that we have, the software that we use. We can't possibly say to them, a lot of people ask, like, hey, what packages you're using? What are the libraries you're using? At some point, this is bound to happen. And third-party compromises, I think they last the whole summer. I think I had 3 ransomware cases back to back to back. Third-party compromise, and then attackers get in. So a lot of people use third-party IT providers. And the thing with that is that they always have escalated credentials because they're the people who are, provisioning the operating system and on servers. So their credentials are very, very high. So if the attackers get into a third-party network that services you, it's a very easy right for them to not just make it to your network, but also have very high credentials to operate. All right, let's talk about the second phase. So again, keep that same drill on. When you're looking at these things, just think about, can your organization defend against this? Is your organization resilient against it? All right, so back in the days, there's still some of that. How many of you have heard of things like Mimikatz or, Windows credential stealer or FG dump, password dump, FG dump? So that used to be a thing. It's still around a little bit. But the newer tactics, DC sync attack, it's brilliant because a machine on your network can kind of pretend that it is a DC, it's a domain controller, and then ask another domain controller to give the credentials, the hashes, and then you crack it. So that is something that we're seeing a lot. Very, very high success. This kind of attack has a very high success rate. Kerberoasting, abusing the ticketing system. Have you guys heard of this tool called Snaffler? It is more of a pen testing tool, but it is so brilliant. Like everything that, if you wear your black hat for a little bit, you might say, hey, this is the thing that I want to code. And somebody has already coded that. So we're going to see this in the demo, but in short, what it is that it basically scans your network for shares, and then it goes in those shares and sucks out the credentials. So if you have AWS access key sitting somewhere, it will suck that out. If you have a file, like an Excel file or like a CSV file, notepad file with something like old credentials or something, it will go yank that. So really, really effective tool. The first time I saw it, I was just like, this is a gold mine. Like, why would anybody even want to do anything other than this for privilege escalation? So we're going to see a little bit demo there. And then attackers are basically going in and attacking the credentials in the databases. So let's take a quick look. You guys all familiar with vCenter, the virtual infrastructure? So in there, there is we PostgreSQL database. So that has encrypted hashes. So if you get that, if you get those, if you are able to access that database, right, you can use another file that is called simkey.dat to basically decrypt the VPX user password. Now, this is a very, very important password in the virtual machines setup because it has the privileges. It is a very privileged service account for admin actions. So if you have that, let's see what you could do with it. So they're also able to reset the SSO account, and then once they have the SSO account, they can log into the vCenter or vSphere web client. I don't know if you've seen this screen, but this is a lot of power in one window. You could actually enumerate virtual machines, you can access VMs, you can create snapshots, and then from there, you can make lateral movement to other vCenters as well. So let's let's talk about the internal recon. There are three kinds of recon. So when we hear about recon, what I want you to understand is that it's a three-step process. There's network reconnaissance. That is more to discover targets, where they're going to go next, and also figure out which systems they're going to make their staging system. The systems that they choose, they're usually the systems that don't have security tooling. It could be legacy systems that cannot install the latest, your EDR software. So just in very recent past, there are a couple engagements where we're like, that's interesting. It can't be a coincidence that two times they just were on the server that had no EDR. So they probably run some recon commands like task list to understand what's running on the system, and then they pick those servers. So these are a couple of tools that we see a lot: advanced IP scanner, soft perfect network scanner. So if anybody works in a SOC, should be at least like a suspect whenever you see those things. For Active Directory recon, we see AD-Find, Bloodhound, SharpHound, again, available publicly, so you can see what they look like and if you want to create signatures on that. Data recon, once they have domain admin privileges in the network, then they can just do manual searching, like just through Windows Explorer. Or, I was an IT administrator before, so no blaming, but we like to make our lives easy. The database servers, we like to have the words, DB in it. For file servers, we like to have the word file in it, and so forth. So attackers also know those acronyms, so they search for those acronyms and they get their target list. And then these days, they're going after cloud as well. So once they have the privileges, they're splitting over to cloud as well. All right. OK. So we're going to do this demo now. Even though it's not a live demo, I do want to check your excitement for the demo. So I belong to the city of Michael Jordan, and whenever he would start the game, he would basically huddle everybody up and say, "What time is it?" And then people would say, "Game time, yeah." But we're going to say demo time, all right? So much so that, all right, let's try to do it with one cheer. What time is it? You guys could do better, all right? I'm looking at all of you over there. All right. What time is it? All right, now we're talking. All right, so we're going to do 3 phases of the kill chain at once, and then we're going to do one in a little bit that will be for the data exfiltration. So very quickly, as you're going through this initial access one, Don't think that it's only possible via email, but it's also possible via a help desk call. So, but the point is, the Rust Desk is a remote management tool, and the victim, I'm calling it like Gibran is a victim right now. Usually I'm the attacker, so people give me feedback that, hey, why are you always the attacker? You want to be victim sometimes. All right, so basically Rust Desk is a very simple tool. You run it, it actually gives you a number, and then that is a number that you give to your controller, like basically the attacker in this case. You also have a password in there. So once the attacker gets that, then this basically they're able to see the full desktop of the victim. And then, once they come in, that is when they run commands like who am I, ipconfig, task list, and so forth. So very simple concept. Somebody can be conned to do this. It could be an exploit when attackers get in, just so that they have a backup way of coming into the network. They install tools like Rust Desk. Cool? Following me so far? Okay. Now is when the fun begins. So, okay. So once the attackers have access, these remote management tools also have file transfer capabilities. So if we look at this lightning button and hit transfer files, this is how attackers are very easily able to move their tools. So the first tool that we're going to move is NetScan. And again, these are both portable versions of the tools. So NetScan is that perfect network scanner that we just talked about. And again, it's really good to see these things visually so you know like what attackers see when they're attacking your network. And the Snaffler is another tool that we will run. Okay. So there we go. This is how network scanner or software perfect network scanner looks like. You feed in your IP range of your network. So this is my little network. When you scan it, it basically gives you the servers that are online at the time. And you can see the host names as well. So like FL looks like file server, and in that server there's this DBOps. DBOps looks like so let me pause here for 1 second. So when I go to this accounting share on this one, what you'll notice is that I don't see anything. It doesn't mean that accounting share doesn't have anything. It just means that my privileges right now are not able to see the files in accounting share. But this folder that we're going into, DBOps, that has files. So I'm going to point this Snaffler tool that I was just talking about. And these are a few options. So basically, output is the folder that I want to save everything in. Like, remember I was saying that when it finds secrets, it sucks everything up and then brings it to me. So we're going to say domain is corp.com, and this is you could do everything, but I'm just choosing the DBOps, the very specific folder, so it goes a little faster. And what you will see is that there is an output folder here. So this is basically what attackers' resulting file is when they run Snaffler. So it says this is a server that I got some secrets from. There were some secrets in DBOps folder. Let's see what was in the cloud pipeline folder. What does it look like? AWS keys, right? So one pause here. When you're looking at this file, like this is the file. Like if you happen to manage like cloud environments, and you have this file, there's this AWS CLI tool that you use to manage cloud infrastructure on Amazon. So that if that file is there in the right folder, then you're authenticated. So it's a very, very, very important file because that gets you kind of like on-prem to cloud hop for the attackers. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so let's go to this other folder that it extracted. It's got to have some secrets. So it goes to that folder for John Adams. There's this file that has some passwords. But I think most important thing is this master password for the KeyPass database. That's got to have a lot of juice, right? So there is the secrets the secrets file for a KeyPass database. So what we're doing now is we're going to pull the whole output directory to the attacker's server, and then we will run like KeyPass with the master password that we have. All right, reconnect. Okay, so we'll go to desktop here, then desktop on the other one. There's this output folder. I'll say receive. It gets me the whole output folder. And then I will go to the attacker box, which has the blue background. And let's see. Okay. So in this, there is a folder called, or the file calls the secrets or old passwords, and then for secrets.kdbx, this is the master password. You take that, put that here, and then you get access to more credentials. And those more credentials, you see that attackers keep making progress, right? Like they keep furthering the attack as they learn more about the network. Okay, so there's a firewall access as well, but what we're gonna do in a short bit is we're gonna use the domain account right after we talk about exfiltration for a minute. Okay, there we are. Okay, so completing the mission, there are multiple phases. One is data exfiltration and then ransomware detonation. So some of the newer things that we're seeing is using tools like rclone to transfer the data. Again, the whole name of the game is don't get detected, but get the job done. Uploading data to victim cloud first, renting a server at a hosting provider, then using FileZilla type of tools to exfiltrate data, and then cloud-to-cloud transfers. So let's take a look at this exfil demo. Okay. So now that this KeyPass actually gives us a domain account password or domain admin password, we're going to take that account and just log into the file server. So remember when we ran the NetScan tool or the SoftPerfect network scanner, we got this, we basically had this file server as a result. So that's the server that we're going in. And then that is the server that we're going to use to exfiltrate data. So again, the a.johnadmins, that's, usually people give admin accounts like a or admin prefix. But what we're going to do is transfer this rclone config. And the config for rclone is actually very interesting. You can actually have rclone point to your S3 buckets as well, so that the data goes there. But if you look at this config here, it's going to mega. Let me back off a little. So I'll pause here for 1 second. So mega is my keyword that I have set. I could have called it anything. Type is mega because it's going to the mega servers. There's a username and password, and then you'll see what happens. So when attackers figure out which directories they want to take, which servers they want to go in, one of the things that they don't want to do is just do manual drag and drop. So a tool like rclone, it actually helps them sync or transfer the whole directory or the whole drive. So when our clone runs, you'll see like how simple it is for attackers to take, a full folder from like a file server. So this is kind of like a manual recon that attackers do to make sure that they get the right stuff, because the NAS or on a file server could have terabytes and terabytes of data. So they don't want to take all that. They just want to take enough so that they could ask for like a hefty ransom, right? So our clone copy, I'm going to say E drive, I'll take, and then F drive. Those are the two drives that I want to take. So the syntax says rclone, copy E drive, and then the method is going to be the mega method that I selected. And there we are. So as you can see, the files are going right now to the attacker infrastructure. And then you basically do the same thing for like the F drive. So I'll pause here and just go cover some more slides, but the format is the same. Copy F, and now it's going to start copying. The -P option is so that we can see the progress. Okay? All good? Make sense? All right. Let's go. All right. So here's something that I wanted to cover. Like, when they go on ESXi systems, if you look at the bottom phase here, they're using the encryptor there to actually encrypt the whole VMS directory, VMFS directory. So again, there's some earlier steps in there, but the last thing is pretty important for you to see, because they have to do a chmod, then they run this command with the encryptor to encrypt all of your virtual infrastructure. All right, so let me kind of quickly give you an appreciation for what is involved. So if you want to understand what it looks like when we have a ransomware attack, these are all the swim lanes that we have to deal with. There's investigation, there's remediation, there's intelligence, there's crisis management, dark web monitoring, 24/7 monitoring. So it's not just investigation, it is way more than that. And the challenges, a lot of people say, hey, these are our 5 critical systems. Can you just recover those? What's wrong with this statement? We have these 5 really important servers, just recover that? The fact is we can't, because you got to build the identity first. You got to build the domain controllers first. You got to build the virtualization platforms first, and then you're able to bring other servers. So the recovery is very, very challenging. This middle phase, middle part, is really, really important. The human impact. There's a lot of frustration that comes because you have to work very long hours. They result in health issues. I'll say one thing, like if you ever have an incident, always take care of the humans first. Selfishly, you don't want to lose them, the people that you've been working with for a number of years. And 2, the health family, that comes first. So if people are not getting their batteries charged by like going to the gym, by seeing their kids, they're not going to be very useful to you. Okay. And then this third thing here, that decision making on imperfect facts, that also takes a toll. Okay. So very practical tips, the last 2 slides, and then we'll end. These are more of the tactical tips. I will tell you one thing, if you can take care of your egress filtering, like outbound traffic going through your firewalls, if you just have a whitelist, it will save you so much trouble. Not just against these ransomware threat actors, but also against the nation-state threat actors. Okay. So there's zero trust as a recommendation. Make sure your help desk has innovations, because you want to protect yourself against social engineering. You want to have a modern security operations center with full visibility. And then this is more high-level tips, but equally important. If you look at the first one, you want to have the best techs, but you want to actually prepare with them because you need friends when you have a ransomware incident. You want to have people that you actually like working with. The newer people, yeah, 1 week in, they get there. But isn't it great if you know the people that you're going to work with for the next 3 weeks? Empathy is a word that gets put around, but to practice empathy is really hard because when you're up against like business deadlines and your business partner saying that, hey, I'm going to disconnect your network if you don't give me this by tomorrow, pause. Everybody gets through these things, when you're in pain, pain goes away. But what you remember is how you dealt with the people. So you don't ever want to deal with the people that you might regret later on. And again, selfishly, you don't want to lose your top talent. And people remember those things, how you treated people with empathy. A lot of people laugh at it when I say this: equip war rooms with best food and snacks, but it is a thing. I have had a lot of luck if I am able to say that, hey, food is catered and there's ice cream in the fridge. So we get to take a lot of really good talent that way. All right, that will be it for me. I will wanted to acknowledge a few teams: Mandiant Incident Response Team, our Security Transformation Team, our CPA team, which does recovery, crisis comms, our intel teams, and everybody who contributes to incident response engagements. Some names: Salman, Caroline, Julia, Victor, and Nathan were really instrumental in some of the data that's in here. And then external counsels, because they do a lot of leading of, they do quarterbacking of these incidents in attorney-client privilege investigations. Law enforcement, they have been great. It used to be one-way street where you give them data and never get anything back. But these days, FBI and some of the other folks, they're giving you a lot of data back. So do use them, make those partnerships. And last but not the least, the cyber community. They are publishing a lot, so keep an eye out for all these security companies that are publishing intel. Use that for your signatures. All right. Lastly, I love talking about this. So please take me up, add me on LinkedIn, ask me questions. I'd love to, guide on ransomware. At least that is something that I'm really passionate about. I hate bad guys taking 22 million, 30 million, even though it costs me some dark web posts, but I would love to still counter them and combat them with you together. That's all I've got. Over to Tanya. Thank you.